I've never seen a diamond in the flesh. I cut my teeth on wedding rings.
Dude, that's pretty cool.
Man, that is a sad clown.
Dude, that's pretty good.
This is The Gloom, bringing you weekly interviews with F3 Omaha packs, exploring their F3 experiences and finding those sticky elements that create the glue in the gloom.
Without further ado, we've got a man on the show today that, I know I've watched him lead several workouts, but also lead a site in Wild Kingdom. So we've got Thomas or Tomas, or we'll have him tell us how you say that here. But we've got Thomas joining the cast today, and like we always do, we want to hear his story. And so I think just to start us off, if you would share kind of how you got started, who aged you, what was your first workout like, and then how'd you get the name, and clarify, how do you say the name correctly?
I've tried to say Thomas, which I think I guess I'll reveal the ending here, but from Thomas the Train, they have like a British accent on there. So I've tried to use a British accent, but apparently it's come across as everything but British, I think. So, but that's the intent. So yeah, where'd I get started? So I think thinking back, around when F3 was first launched, I remember hearing about it, I think through some social media, and I kind of thought, oh, that looks interesting, but it wasn't one that was going to just jump into something like that right away. But then over time, it would just pop up in different spots in social media or whatever. I remember reading an article, I think in the World Herald, that they did a nice feature on it. And then in the fall of 2019, Mufasa had, his daughter and son are both really good friends with two of my kids. And so we had been friends, and he had told me, hey, I started doing this thing in the morning called F3, and he was really passionate about it. And I've known Mufasa for a while, and exercise was not the first word that came to mind when I was with him. I mean, I knew he'd played baseball in college and stuff, but he wasn't one that was going to join me for a run or anything like that. And so he started telling me about it, and he I don't think it was super long, a couple of weeks. He had encouraged me to come out, and finally I said yes. And he said, well, we work out, it's on Thursdays, it's the maze. It's out at 204th and F kind of. And so I checked it out online on Twitter. I think I had checked the Twitter feed for the maze the night before, and it was forecast for rain the next day. It was October, and I get up the next morning, and I'm looking outside, and it is just cracking out, and it's pouring. And I'm looking at my phone like, is this thing still happening? And I don't have a text message for Mufasa or Michael, I guess, as I knew him then. So I was like, I guess I'm doing this thing. So I show up at the maze, and it's a pretty good crew out there, maybe, I don't know, 15, 20 guys. I think it was Armbar's VQ. So I didn't know what a VQ was at the time. Obviously didn't know anybody there. It was raining, and there was some lightning, not super close. It was close enough that I was a little nervous, but I remember the workout. The Huskers, I mean, they've had all sorts of challenges in football, but at that point in time, they're having real struggles with their kicking game. And I think they had actually done tryouts on campus to try to find kickers on campus. And so Armbar had us out on the football field at the maze doing place kicking in the pouring rain. So I think a couple guys fell on their butts, but I just remember it was a lot of fun. And then, the COT at the end, and we're doing ball man back then, and just closing it out with a prayer. I was like, well, that kind of hit me. That was different. And that was probably the beginnings of me realizing it was a lot more than just about fitness. And that was pretty big for me. And then that was on a Thursday. I went back out on Saturday to the Oracle, and there was like 40 guys at the Oracle, and I think it was CSI's VQ and him and Safe Ride kind of co-queued it, and it was another good day, good morning, and I went and grabbed coffee that morning afterwards at over in 132nd Pacific or somewhere over that way, and then from there it's kind of hooked.
I remember that workout. That was terrible. I remember the rain and the place kicking, and I'm with Mufasa. I'm a baseball player, so kicking is not my strength, but I definitely remember that. What were you doing before F3 for fitness? Were you a runner or working out, or what was your?
Yeah, so my work, we've got a fitness center at work, and that's primarily been where I was working out at, and I would often go down over lunch, and there was a group of us that would run. We called ourselves the NRC, the Noon Running Club, and we had different routes on Mondays, and Tuesday was a certain run. Thursday is kind of our special run, and so that had been my routine. It's been a really good group of guys at UP. I've been able to many of them over to F3, so Hog, Butterfly, Girl Dad, to name a few, and so kind of starting out with F3, I was trying to figure out what's the balance, because I didn't want to just stop working out at UP. Didn't necessarily want to be doing 2-a-days every day, so for the first, I've probably been a 2 or 3 day a week workout through most of my time at F3. I've never been a guy that got out 5 or 6 days in a week, but I do try to post, once or twice for sure in a week. But it's kind of been a balance between getting out in the morning in the gloom with the guys, but then still trying to find some of that routine that I had before.
What was what was the draw to F3 that maybe you were just lacking in that NRC club you're talking about?
The thing that probably when I first had heard about F3 was, hey, I've already got a workout group. I've already got a group of guys that are working out, and I'm friends with those guys outside of work as well. But the thing that probably for F3 or just in general, looking out and kind of like, where do I want to be in 5 years? Where do I want to be in 10 years? And just around guys like-minded with fitness, like-minded with family, and like-minded with faith, and really finding opportunities to engage with the communities and serve the community. So those were the things that have been exciting for me and have continued to engage me with F3. It's just some of those, I'll say almost expectations or obligations that's part of F3, is that you're also participating in the community and finding ways to give back, and seeing guys that are really accelerating in that space just helps drive me and motivate me in that part as well.
I agree. I think we hear that so many times, right? And you mentioned it, that first workout, just experiencing like the ball of man and the prayer and the COT, and you kind of you get that feeling, right? Something is different here. Before we go too much further, though, I do want to just recap, because I think I caught it there. But so the name Thomas comes from where you work.
Yeah, I skipped that part, but at the end that day, there was two of us, two FNGs, and I guess volunteered to go into the circle first. I'm pretty reserved guy, so I didn't have a lot to the packs that day to chew on for names. I just kind of said, got family, got kids, got 4 kids, keep me pretty busy. I work at Union Pacific, and that just kind of triggered all sorts of names associated with the railroad or with trains. And I think it was kind of coming down to Thomas the Train, or Thomas, and or Sir Topham Hatt. And I think they thought, if Armbar thought Sir Topham Hatt was going to be too much of a mouthful to try to say too often, so he just settled on Thomas. And I think everyone that I've listened to on the podcast it's taken a little while to grow into their name. I was like, gosh, I've got an actual name for a nickname, and that's confusing. Still confusing today when I introduce myself to guys that haven't met me before. But it got two boys that watched a lot of Thomas the Train. We've got that little tracks and stuff like that. So like most everyone, I've kind of grown into it and been excited about it. And then I was noticing some other guys all had little things that they do during Namarama, maybe with how they say it or some sort of a sign or something. And so I just thought, well, I'll use the fake British accent. So.
No, you're right about having the first name as a as a nickname. You're probably like running into guys that have been posting for a while. Like if I never met you, I'd be like, hey man, Pony Express. You'd be like, Thomas. Like, okay, yeah. What's your F3 name, man? I'm waiting.
Yeah, there's been quite a few of those instances.
Go ahead, Brandon.
It's good to confirm because for a while, I think I started to believe that your British accent from Namarama was how you really talk, and so then I had to remind myself, wait a minute, that's how he's saying it for a reason that way. So I love that. What as you look, because eventually you started to accelerate yourself, and I think looking at first, second, and third F, and kind of where you were before you started, and maybe where F3 helped you grow. What do you think prepared you to take on the leadership role at Wild Kingdom as a Stie-Q? How did that transition work out for you?
Well, I'll kind of go back to just 2020, and when we kind of went down into lockdown mode for the pandemic, and everything shuts down, right? And even F3 shut down. And so there was kind of some stealth groups that were still meeting. And that was really pretty healthy for me because it was hard for me to get out and do a solo workout, or I was trying to do some solo workouts at home. We don't have a gym, so I was just kind of doing like an insanity workout or, some of those DVD ones, and those get old. But there was still some guys meeting in the morning, and that kind of sparked a little bit more of just beyond the fitness, building the fellowship, and then I kind of became a pretty regular at Wild Kingdom. Tonight Show was leading it at the time, and I didn't know, early on like what a Stie-Q was or like how long they were a Stie-Q for. And then I started seeing, some of the transitions at the other places, and was starting to get a sense that, Tonight Show had been at Wild Kingdom for a while, and he's probably going to be looking for someone else to take over. And there wasn't, at the time, it wasn't a huge group of us that were regulars out there. I would say maybe, 10 was not an uncommon number of guys that were posting at Wild Kingdom, and sometimes even fewer than that. And especially when you started looking at regulars. And so, even before he'd asked, I was starting to think he may ask, and I wasn't sure about it, to be honest, at first. But I kind of thought, well, someone's got to do it. I don't have any good reason not to do it. It's literally like in my backyard. And the only thing I think I was nervous was just like, I got to be there every week. I can't oversleep, no snooze button. And but I knew once I signed up that wasn't going to be an issue. And so he had talked to me in the fall of 2020, and I said, yeah, I think that'd be a good fit. And then we kind of the conversion was a little challenge with some timing, as you well know, but we made that happen. And then that was a really big growth opportunity for me, getting to know the other leaders. I've tried to get around and post at other AOs, but it is, even there's a lot of guys that are kind of in their area, and so if you don't get out and venture out, sometimes you don't meet them. But I've had an opportunity to meet them through being a Stie-Q, and so that was a really fun year that I had taking that over.
Yeah, you know, we're out constantly talking to former leaders. That's what we've kind of focused this podcast on, is reaching out to former leaders or current leadership to get a sense of who they are as a person. But, you know, something that we really haven't asked people is, you know, what was your personal experience? What were some things that you really enjoyed about being a Stie-Q, or some things that you, looking back, maybe could have done better? Just kind of curious your input there.
So I think some of the things that I enjoyed was getting guys to do their VQ. Like I kind of, there was a stretch there where I was really looking for guys, and was kind of not pushing them so much, but I would say encouraging. Hey, you know, I'll help you out. Let's do your first Q. That's always fun. Those guys, you know, I think even my first Q, you're nervous. You're going through the Exicon, trying to find things and make it this super great workout, and realizing you know you put way too much thought into it, as far as your first one, and just trying to memorize all the different things or whatever. But so that was part of my favorite part. The other part is, you know, I was there every Tuesday and seeing the same, you know, continuous group of guys that were coming back. I think that helped build some really cool relationships. And then Ponzi had pushed us to, we'd been going to a Starbucks and off a center, and he's like, hey, there's a place you guys should be grabbing coffee at that is run or owned by, you know, a guy, one of the packs here, and that was Father Time at Bidlex Brookside Cafe. And I was a little nervous because we were still kind of in the midst of COVID and we were going to be having coffee inside, but we figured that out. He gave us a good spot to meet at, and now that's one of my favorite spots for coffee, is at Bidlex, and you can buy coffee for the whole, you know, everybody that shows up for 10 or 15 bucks or whatever. That was some of the things that I liked about being a Stie-Q, and just kind of building those relationships with the guys that were regulars. Things that, looking back, I maybe might have done different. It took me a little while before I was proactively reaching out to guys, especially new guys that had posted, and just, you know, shooting them a text, encouraging them, you know, after the first post, or to, you know, if we hadn't seen them in a week or two or something. So I tried to get better at that as the year went. But that's something I probably wish I'd done a little bit more of, and started on early on. The other thing, you know, that I probably a little bit regret that I didn't get accomplished was, I think there's been some encouragement of, hey, find some sort of opportunity to kind of give back to your site. So we've had, you know, at elementary schools or other schools that we post at, there's been some, you know, different types of fundraisers, and that's been pretty cool to cut checks to those schools to help benefit them. And I think pretty unexpected in a lot of cases. They maybe didn't even know we were posting because we're there so early. But, you know, just try to, maybe we could have found some service project at the Wild Kingdom to help spruce up the park or do something like that. So that would have probably been the one regret that we didn't do.
That's an awesome idea. I actually kind of regret that now too. Now that you kind of said that, maybe we could have done more in Elmwood Park and made it a lot nicer of a park. I still think it's a nice park, but could we have done something to make it different? Well, today we actually had a shovel pass, and so I really want to ask you about choosing your successor and what that looked like for you when you were kind of ready to give it up and kind of promote new leadership. How did that go for you?
So that was one of those things that, as I was starting to look, I had some guys in mind that I thought would be good fits. And then I think that was around the time that we had started putting a spreadsheet together to help plan some of that coordination. And the first time I looked at it, I think the three of the guys that I had in mind were already listed for other sites. So then I was like, all right, well, we got to look a little harder now. But Mufasa had reached out, and he'd said he was interested in it, and obviously he's been really passionate about F3 and was the guy that EH'd me. So I thought that would be, he'd be a great person to take over leadership, and has been. So that's kind of how that process went down.
You know, I think that's fair, and we always wish we did more, or, you know, reflecting back, right? It's easy to tell that story or to come up with ideas there. I'm curious from your personal journey, what sort of growth did you experience there? You know, whether it be second or third F. You know, I don't know if you had a chance just on the days that you posted to participate in like the Q source or free to lead discussions or any of that stuff, but you
Yeah,
feel like we helped with that, or F3 helped kind of propel you there in those areas?
yeah. So I've done. I wasn't a regular attendee at the Q source, but on the combine on Fridays, I was, somewhat regular participant in the Q source, and I thought those were good discussions. A lot of, the opportunity to take some of the concepts from there and see how they could apply to my personal life. Or there's a lot of things I think in F3 that, I mean, obviously to home life and stuff like that, but also to work. And some of the things that I find really interesting is just how we've established culture and grown culture. And it's not top down, it's grassroots, and it's the way that it's been formed that way has allowed people that probably haven't had an opportunity or may not have been your first pick to lead in other places, and then see them step up and really be surprising leaders at F3, or it may be surprising to me, but in hindsight shouldn't have been. But finding ways that can apply to work, right? I mean, there's a lot of people kind of get pigeonholed or get identified as one area, and they may not step up if the culture's not right. But F3, it really encourages that and causes you to seek out those people and give them an opportunity, and sometimes that's all that it takes.
That's fantastic. I nobody has really mentioned that, but I completely agree. You know, something that's interesting is this idea that in F3, we encourage people to lead with the expectation that failure is possible, but you're going to have the support you need. But we don't always do that well in like the corporate world. And so I think being able to, like, I've tried to do that with my team, almost like, hey, let's co-queue this project, let's try to just elevate more people. Because I think what I have learned in F3 is more people than you think have leadership abilities. It's just not everybody has the opportunity. So I love that point that you made. Talk to me about faith. I think that's maybe the area we haven't touched on a little bit. And I'm just curious kind of where you came into F3 at, and maybe where you're at today.
So, faith's been an important part of my life. Have been an active member at a church. The thing that I haven't been an active member, I mean, an active member as far as attending and worshiping, not really an active member as far as like Bible studies and some of those other things. And I haven't necessarily really dove into that within F3 either, but just the prayers, and being comfortable speaking those prayers at around men that perhaps you've never even met before, has been kind of an invigorating experience as far as building more of my faith in that respect, and then seeing that commitment to taking that and then the service part. I've had an opportunity to do several service projects with with Wentworth and leading at Heartland Hope and some other opportunities that, again, I've seen it be a more active part of the packs than I've seen maybe just through kind of the traditional worship, where people might just kind of go and receive the hour or so of the worship service and then kind of back to their lives, whereas we've incorporated into a more of a regular routine.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think one of the things that you mentioned that I really love is just the space for guys to share in that aspect together. I think one of the things I've experienced like through church Bible studies is you kind of talk about maybe scripture or whatever your faith system is, and like you meet and you have conversations about that, but it's that shared experience that I think we have in F3 that makes it just it just feels different. You know, you complete this difficult workout, and then somebody delivers a COT, and then you pray, and the connection with the guys there is for whatever reason, you know, it's hard for us to, I think, understand or explain, but for whatever reason it just feels more authentic, I think, than maybe a traditional, you know, church-based study, which I think is cool. I think that's one of the great things we offer. Curious, you know, from your perspective, as you've, you know, come into F3, you've got kind of your faith established, and then as you've seen other guys develop their leadership skills or develop kind of their own continuum on that first, second, third F, how do you feel like you've seen? Do you feel like you've seen maybe God working through the packs? Have you had any experiences there? Just kind of curious.
I mean, I've seen some guys, and I don't want to necessarily single anybody out on the podcast here, but you know, really, I think it's definitely working. You know, guys that are posting have shared some of the struggles and the challenges that they're going through, and you know, it's God working through us to build those guys up, and whether, you know, it's something going on at home with family, or maybe something, an illness, or something in the workplace, but it's God working through us to support them and help them, you know, when they need it, and then, you know, evolving out into the community, just the things that I see happening with giving back to the community, it's pretty special.
You know, I want to circle back to something you said about, well, the community involvement and things like that on that piece of faith, because what you're talking about is an active participation, right? Where typically in worship, it's very passive, and we're just on the receiving end. You know, I really like what you're saying about how in this faith aspect, we are putting people to work, right? You're seeing amongst the PAX members, people are having the opportunity to go and volunteer and do these things and increase this faith aspect that we're all, you know, striving to accelerate. So I appreciate that. I guess, is there anything weighing on your mind lately, any words of encouragement that we could share with you if we see you out in the gloom or anything?
I think just, you know, there was, especially after I've kind of transitioned the Wild Kingdom over to Mufasa, I dropped back a little bit, and I was still getting out at least once a week, but I know I'd posted at the Brickyard, I think, and TC saw me there, and he's just like, I haven't seen you in a while, man, and just, you know, lifted me up and really encouraged me, you know, that when guys haven't seen you in a while and you run into them, you know, that they're really making a point to welcome you back. It's been a little bit, you know, so that's been great to hear as I see guys, and then yeah, so that's probably the main thing.
Simple but effective. You know, I would echo the same, you know, and I think we all appreciate that, especially, you know, because like you mentioned earlier, right, you've never really been a 6-day-a-week guy, but it still is really meaningful when somebody, you know, makes an effort to go up and say hi or ask you how you're doing, or, you know, I think that's just for all of us, just to remember, you know, I can think of several times where I was just so stuck in my own life and ego and whatever that I didn't take time, and then you leave those workouts feeling like, oh man, so-and-so was there and I could have said hi, and I didn't, which I think that's a great reminder. The other thing, just from a leadership perspective, you touch on in a couple different areas, just the value of consistency. So, like, you know, part of why you were chosen to take over, right, was your consistency. You were a regular, and part of why I think part of why this works, and why a Stie-Q gets to kind of be a part of some of those life events is because you're the consistent guy, and so I think, curious from your perspective, you mentioned earlier finding that consistency is, your wife has a new job or that sort of thing, but where have you found those elements of consistency within F3 to be helpful in your life? Have you experienced that, or?
Part of it is just kind of getting that routine, but having, guys that are reaching out to you and asking if you're going to post somewhere, and then, making sure you show up and have that, so you build those relationships within, a smaller group. I think that's one of the things that as we've grown, and it's been great. And I know this has probably been a bit of a theme on some of these podcasts, is just that it does get to be a little bit more of a challenge of having, it's not the same relationships that it was, 18 months ago or 24 months ago for guys that have been here kind of a longer time. But there are opportunities to do that, within specific AOs and kind of posting with those guys. The other thing, I've unfortunately been a consistent participant in the Queen service because I have some success, and then I kind of think I figured out the key to it, and then I revert back to my old ways. So I'm back in it again this time, and I've kind of did a shield lock with Sister Act, and we've been texting every day, just kind of words of encouragement on progress. And I'll be pretty blunt that last night I was eyeing some stuff that was in the fridge, and I was like, if I don't hit the weight that I told Sister Act I was going to hit tomorrow, I'm not going to be pleased with myself. So that stuff stayed in the fridge, and I kind of hit the number I was looking for this morning. So just, building some of those things up, and having some guys that help hold you accountable. And, Sister Act and I have not crossed paths a ton over the course of F3, but he had kind of expressed on the Slack channel that he was looking maybe for someone to help him hold accountable, and I was feeling the same way. So we just reached out to each other, and kind of did a little bit of a shield lock for Queen service. And it's those are kind of the cool moments of F3 that I don't think you get in a lot of places. So.
Well, kudos to you for hitting your goal weight and for taking that step. What do you think? I mean, to either the F&G or just a PAX member, from an advice perspective, because that took a certain amount of courage to do that. But what other, things just from your experience would you recommend that other guys make sure they're trying to do?
For me, when I was first kind of considering F3 and then started participating, I was looking at it really just from the fitness aspect. And the fitness aspect is solid, but it's, we're not the only place that you can kind of get a workout in. The special parts that are going to kind of carry with you through the years are the second and third components. But you gotta kind of put yourself out there to experience those. You gotta maybe go to a coffeteria. You gotta maybe sign up for one of the service events. CSOP's coming up next weekend. That's a great opportunity to, obviously fitness oriented. We're going to be pretty challenging on that respect, but there's some pretty cool relationship opportunities during that time as well. So those are all things that are really certainly we're outside of my comfort zone to start, and I think might be outside of a lot of people's comfort zone if they're just focused on the fitness side. But you're gonna miss out on a big aspect of it if you don't enjoy those or participate in those. So I would just say for someone that's new, or maybe potentially listening to this and hasn't participated in F3 yet, or you have and you just done a workout or two, get to one of the cafeterias, and that's where you start to build the relationships and have an opportunity to talk, or maybe do a pre-run. Sometimes the beatdowns are hard to have a lot of mumble chatter in, but the pre-runs where you get or a ruck, where you get maybe 30 minutes to kind of on a smaller group setting at Plague. I think early on, I did a pre-run with you. I hit a like on a tweet for you about pre-run at the Wild Kingdom, and I'm like, I think I just committed myself to a pre-run tomorrow. And I was able to somehow keep up with you, and I think you mostly were talking because I was just breathing heavily. But those are a couple opportunities to build some relationships, maybe in a little bit smaller setting. A lot of our beatdowns these days have been 15, 20, 25 guys, and sometimes it can be really easy to be anonymous in those.
So I guess my second question would be, how did you overcome some of the, what Free to Lead would call noble excuses? So I got 4 kids at home. I got to help get ready for school. I've got to, and some of those things, I got to log into work early, whatever they might be. How did you overcome that? Because I think a lot of guys that are maybe on the fence with like, I don't think I can make it to coffee. I think that's where the decision point comes in. And there's a thought of, if I go to coffee, I'm not going to still be there for my family or whatever those responsibilities are. But how did you tackle that in your life?
So some of them is, you don't have to go every day. There's those responsibilities, and often, those are real and not necessarily negotiable, that you do need to jet right after the workout, but that may not be true every day, right? So there may be that one day that you've got an extra 30 minutes. Maybe it's a Saturday, a 6 a.m. workout, and oftentimes Saturdays are going to be a little easier, maybe schedule wise. So be intentional about that. And or the pre-run side of it is you're showing up earlier. Now for me, the 5:30, I'm not a morning guy. I've kind of been a night owl my whole life, so that's been probably a big challenge as far as making sure that I'm getting enough rest so that I'm getting up there consistently in the morning. And that's just a commitment, and oftentimes that's where kind of the shield lock, or having a guy that you've committed to that you're going to be there, is that extra dose of motivation to make sure you make it.
Absolutely. That's good advice. I was asking that question for myself, so I appreciate that. I curious too, so you've been in F3 for a while. You've been a Stie-Q within F3, and always kind of curious where you see things going, where you hope things go, things that maybe you hope we always keep as part of what we have here. Anything in that space for you?
I hope we're able to keep the just enthusiasm and kind of keep that it doesn't just become about fitness. I think it's important that it really is about all three aspects, and I don't see that slowing down, but I know that it takes kind of focused attention to make sure it happens. I've been excited, you think we had a great set of leaders, and we did. You look back to the Redwoods and guys that came shortly thereafter, and great leaders, but then you look at guys that have been maybe even just a few months, and folks like, I guess Ferdinand's been for a while, but I think of like him and Swiper and other guys that are newer than me anyways, not so much brand new, but that are stepping up and doing great things, and you're like, gosh, there's a whole bunch of leaders out there. We just need to kind of loop them in and then let them do their things, and we're going to go directions that we can't even think about. We've expanded so much into Sarpy County. That's been exciting. Getting out into Elkhorn now. So just getting to new pockets of guys, and I know Sparty and others are doing great work to get into maybe North Omaha and a little bit more in the inner city, and I think that's going to be really cool to see that take off. So those are things that I kind of hope that F3 is able to do, and I'm expecting that we will, based on our track record.
Well, you're kind of mentioning some things, and we've asked this question a lot, and I don't think it's ever been phrased with such words of encouragement. So I certainly appreciate that. I think you're absolutely right that there are new leaders that are kind of taking control right now, and exciting stuff. It's going in multiple directions. You're right. Sarpy County is blowing up. Gretna is going to get big. Elkhorn, Plague's moving out way out west. Maybe he'll start his own site somewhere out there on the farm. But yeah, no, I think it's kind of hard because you can be somewhat trepidatious. Like you had mentioned, it's not the same as it was 2 years ago. It's not the same 10 guys you're seeing every time, but keeping in mind that we should be encouraged that we're going in a good path. So I certainly appreciate that. Appreciate your statements. We appreciate your time. We do want to be mindful of your time, so I figured we could wrap up with Name-a-Rama. So I'll take us out. I am John Whitworth. I am 30, Pony Express.
Hey. Brandon Flehardy, 36, The Plague.
The Plague.
The Plague.
Jesse Houston, 42, Thomas.
Nice job. Appreciate it, man.
Thank you, brother.